Welcome back, CSC103, W1 or W2 for fall 2021 or later. Maybe this is spring 2022 that you're watching this, but this is part 2 and we're going to put some holes in our cubes. That's the exciting part. So I'm in my dashboard here and I could just click on here and hit the Tinker This button. I'll open it back up again. And there it is. And I'm just going to check because weird things happen. This, of all the things, the ruler is the one thing. And look at this. It says use midpoint. Now remember, when you hover over it, it shouldn't say use midpoint. It should say use endpoint. So already, if I click on this, I don't know what I did. It's saying -10, -10. So already somehow the ruler got messed up. So just check it. So I'm going to click on the ruler thing where it says use midpoint and just make sure it says use endpoint. And make sure that it's at 0, make sure this is at 0, and the other one's at 10 as far as positioning. Let me move this up. So this is the positioning, the 0, and the 10, and the size is the 20, 20, 20. Now what we're going to do is put a cylinder through this. So I'm going to use a cylinder that already is colored with none, although they call it whole, I think. That's the whole color. It just means it's going to be like negative space, but it's not negative until you actually group it with something else that it actually subtracts from it. So we're going to make it, if this is 20, and I think the old exercise I did, or the previous video, somehow I think I had it 10, 10, 10, but I'm going to bring in this thing, and I'll just bring it anywhere. Here's my cylinder, and it's 20 high, 20 wide, and 20 deep, where the length, the Y is 20, the width, or the X is 20, and the Z, or the height, is 20. And I think I'm going to make the height 40. So I could click right here and I'll make it 40. And I'm going to make the width 10. I think the old video it was 5. I'll make that 10, and you can see it's kind of oval shaped, so I want to make the other one and make sure I'm clicking on that for that. So I'm going to click here and make that 10. And it should look like a cylinder. And if I view from the top, oh, check it out. That looks right. And if you need to see it flat, click on this thing. So that looks right. And I'm going to move it right in the middle. So what you could do is look at these things of where the positions are, and I could put it at 0. There, you can see the Y is now at 0, and this is the X. I'm going to come over here, and I'll put that at 0. And now when I view it from the front, I could go over here and view it from the front. That's actually where I want it. I want it halfway up and halfway down. So that's saying 10. So if it isn't saying, when you click on this thing, if it's not saying 10, put it at 10 so that the middle of that is at 10. Center point should be 10, just like the same as the cube, I think. I think the cube has the same center point. So the center point of the cylinder is at 10. The center point of the cube is at 10. And that's what it should look like now. And again, if you view it from the top, it should look like that. Now, if we actually group these, it would make a hole in there. But before we do that, we're going to duplicate and rotate these because they're kind of in place. Now, I'll go back to this view, my home view, and I'll zoom in. Now, I want to rotate one that goes down and it's kind of going sideways. And let me put this in perspective view. So I want to rotate this like a clock. So I want to rotate it, I guess it doesn't matter, but I'll rotate it clockwise so it's kind of going this way. But a copy of it, not this one. This one is going to stay there going up and down, and it's going to be going along the x-axis. So the best way to rotate it would be to view from the front. So I'm going to view from the front, and I'll also put it in the flat mode, which is orthographic. And now if I select that and I duplicate it, they have a thing here that says duplicate. And then I'm just going to take that arrow, and you have to be in flat sometimes for this to work well. So make sure when you're rotating things, get in the flat mode. And I'm going to go in that double arrow, and I'm just going to move it. And you can see it's rotating the copy. So I duplicated it, and now I'm just rotating it to 90 degrees. And that's it. And then I'll go back to my home view, and I'll zoom in so you can kind of see what I did. I'll go back to perspective, and that's what it looks like. And if I hold down on my control, or if you use your mouse wheel, that's what I want. So I just want one more. I want this thing flipped around this way. So instead of trying to flip it when you're in this view, I'm going to go from the top because then it'll be easier to see it rotate around. So I'm going to go back to the top view, and I'll also go in flat view or orthographic. And then I want to duplicate this again. Don't just rotate it. I want to duplicate it. So go here to duplicate. And then I want to select it. Make sure you select it and get on its arrow. And then I'll just rotate this one around. And I don't know what happened to the other one. Let me undo. Something happened there. Did I duplicate it? Maybe I didn't duplicate it. Actually, let me just move it. Yeah, it doesn't look like I duplicated it. Or here's undo. It's not undo on my browser, it's here. Just so you know, it's not you when these things happen. So we're viewing from the top, and I want to duplicate this. So let me click on it again, and I want to hit duplicate. Okay, it should have made a copy, and now I should be able to rotate the copy. There it goes. So I don't know what happened, but just undo and try it again. So that looks right. And now I'll just go to my home view. I'll put it in perspective, and I'll zoom in. And that's kind of what I want. I'll use my mouse now, and I'll use my right mouse button, kind of move around, look at it. And that's exactly what I want. I want 3 cylinders going through there. So there's 4 objects. There's a cube and 3 cylinders, and they have hole color, which means they're kind of negative, but we're actually going to subtract them. So what you could do, however you want to do this, if you want to go in front view, zoom out a little bit, whatever you need to do, I'll try that. I'll go in front view, and I'll zoom out, and I'll see if I could highlight around everything. And it should select 4 objects. So when I do that, it's saying 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me try that again, unless it's getting the grid. Let me make sure it's not getting the grid. Let's try this. 5. I must have an extra one somewhere, but I don't know. It's like a copied one. It doesn't look like I have 5 objects. It looks like I have 1 cylinder, 2 cylinder, unless there's a double cylinder somewhere. Let me see. If I highlight that cylinder, it's saying cylinder. If I highlight this cylinder, it's saying cylinder. This one, cylinder. Let me view from the front. Let me highlight that. 2 shapes. I have 2 cylinders there. I don't know what happened, but I'm going to click on one and delete it. All right, so that kind of solved that dilemma. And again, this kind of stuff happens. I don't think this program is that easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. So, just if it had a normal ruler, if it had X and Y and stuff, but it tries to be overly simple so that kids can kind of play around with it. But if you think logically, you kind of struggle with it. So anyway, now when I highlight all these things, I should have 4 shapes. And all we have to do is group them, and it should make the whole shapes become nothing. It should subtract them. So let's try it out. I'm going to click over here where it says group. And it worked. It did that subtract operation. And now when I look at it, I see the holes going around, the holes on the bottom. Everything looks okay. So that's all I want. That's all you need to do. Now, in some 3D programs, you could render it and make a nice rendering of it. They don't do that here. This is just kind of for building purposes. So all you have to do is stop here, and you're done. If it worked like that. And if you had any problems, like I said, you make sure it says use endpoint, which means you're working on midpoint. So that's where people run into problems with the lining things up. And you can see little glitchy things happen. I had 2 cylinders there, and after I duplicated it, and I didn't even realize it. So all little glitchy things are going to happen, but that's okay. That's part of it. Once you have this, that's why we're doing something simple, like a cube with holes in it. So once you have this, you're done. So you could just go back here to the dashboard. And if you already signed up to the account, what you can do, go down to Unit 6. Here it is. Here's the exercise. And this is the second video after they create an account. But what you can do here is just go in here. And if you already joined the classroom, if it said you're in the classroom and you joined the classroom, all you have to do is just go in here, add a comment, and just put complete. And one thing that might help, just to help me locate you, is just go back here and just indicate your username. So let's see, my username is CJMY. Whatever your username is that you used, just indicate that, because it'll be easier to find you from a list. So you just have to say, complete in classroom is fine, something like that. And you could just put your username. So I'll just put CJMY because that's my username. But put your username. So no links, no nothing. If you join the classroom, I'll just go in there and check if you're there. And if you're not there, I'll say, hey, you're not there, and make sure that you join the classroom and you use the right code to do that. Sometimes people use the code from the other class because they look at one on video and they use the wrong one. So or they don't know what section they're in. So that's all you have to do. So when you turn it in, no links, anything, you just have to say complete in classroom, CJMY, and I know that it's in W1 because that's where I'm looking at it in coursework right now. So that's all you have to do for that exercise. So that's the end of part 2 for working in Tinkercad and making a cube with 3 holes. Next, we're going to make a pumpkin, which will be a little more challenging.